are tuned in to Martin Zender's Cracking Dawn Report. Crack up dawn. Sorry, it's 5:41 a.m. So what do you expect? Now, most Christians believe in free will. In fact, most of the people on the planet believe in free will. There isn't much practical difference in that department between Christians and, say, Bill Gates, Adolf Hitler, Tiger Woods, Tiger Woods' girlfriends, James Bond, Madonna, Lady Gaga, Prince Charles, Orville Redenbacher, Britt Hume, Ronald McDonald, or even Satan for that matter. Oh, Mother Teresa, did I say Lady Gaga? Well, it's human to want to be independent from God. Everybody wants to be independent from God. Stay out of my life, God. We all want control. I want to do it myself. I want a realm of sovereignty for me, man, me. And that's what Ronald McDonald wants. And when it comes down to those important decisions in life, we sure as heck want God out of the picture. Stay away from me. I want my sphere of freedom. That is free will. You have to understand that if you believe in free will. The damning word in the phrase free will is not the word will, because we do have wills, we all make decisions. It's the word free. It's the word that damns it. Because by saying that you're free, you're saying that you have no influence on you. You're not influenced by God. Stay away from me, God! You're not influenced by your heredity, the fact that you were born a man or a woman or other. You're not influenced by the weather. You're not influenced by the death process working in you. Free will means you're not influenced by the fact that you're a sinner. What about God? You are influenced by God, aren't you? No! Pay attention! If you're free, you are not even influenced by God. Because if God influenced you, you wouldn't be free anymore. Stay out of my life, God. Yeah.
I choose to be posed with my hands glued together like the frickin' Mother Teresa of fast food. Free will move number 16. Having a gay man sit on my lap and lick my face paint off. Yeah, right. Here's a new one. I did not will this, and yet it still happened. My free will is inviolable, thanks for asking. Why else would I choose this footwear and hear people laugh at my hair all day?
I got one verse that disproves human free will. I got a dozen of them, but I only need one. And that's Ephesians 1:11. God is operating all things in accord with the counsel of His own will. I come across people who say, yeah, well, give me another verse. And I have them, but I don't bring them out because I like to say to them, all I need is one. Now, there's a lot of verse that shows people exercising their will. Choose this day whom you will serve. We see people choosing left and right in the scripture. Sometimes even down the middle, but mostly left and right. But they're not choosing freely. They're all under influences. God, Satan, their gender, what they had for breakfast, the fact that they're sinners. I wonder if the fact that you're a sinner has anything to do with the fact that you can't do everything you want in this world, morally, spiritually. If that's the case, then you're not free. People say, Martin, you're just making me a robot. No, actually, they don't say it like that. They say, I'm not a robot, Martin. I'm not a robot. Now, I agree with them. You're right. You're not a robot. You're worse. You're worse than a robot. You're a piece of clay in the hands of the potter. That is the scriptural analogy of God's relation with mankind. Don't you think that an issue as important as God's relation with His creation, don't you think that that would be described for us in Scripture in the most simple, easy to understand manner as possible? Yeah. Romans 9, the potter and the clay. The only problem is people hate that analogy. So they come up with other ones that they like better, like the fly in the jar. It's like you got this jar, see, and the jar is the limit, and like God has a certain limit on you, but within the limit you can... Why are people struggling to come up with these analogies when the Scripture already has a perfect analogy and an easy-to-understand description? People hate God's analogy. They don't like being clay. This should make you happy, not sad. You see, you have the best of both worlds. The best of both worlds is knowing that God is in control of everything and nothing can fall outside of His loving, purposeful will. But you still have the fun of living. You still have the enjoyment of not knowing what's going to happen the next minute. God does that on purpose because that's where you learn in the interplay, in the friction between your ignorance and what you're going through. You're learning through that process, and God purposely keeps you ignorant of the future. Who the hell wants to know the future? Do you really want to know the day you're going to die? But God knows it. Back in the Middle Ages, people believed, that God gave you, apportioned you, everybody in their life, your specific amount of heartbeats that you're going to have. And that is absolutely true. But back in that day, when people were kind of dumber than rocks, they were fatalists, and they would sit around in a chair, all quiet and not moving much because they didn't want to use up their heartbeats. But that's fatalism. You can run up the Empire State Building 10 times a day or sit in a chair like an idiot for 80 years. You're still going to use up the exact amount of heartbeats. That's where the blessed gift of ignorance comes in. You live your life. You live like it depends on you, but you believe like it's all of God. Absolutely speaking, it is of God. Only relatively, as you relate to the world, does it seem like you're in charge. Hey, Christians, the key word there is seems. Stay out of my life, God. Oh, speaking of Billy Graham, I heard that at revivals, or whatever you call those things, altar calls, Billy Graham used to tell the audience, is that what you call them? Audiences? What do you call them at those revival things when you have altar calls? Is it an audience? I'm not sure. It's an audience. That's kind of like a worldly world. It can't be an audience. A congregation. A holy convocation? I'm not sure, but I got to get the terminology right. I don't want to screw it up. Anyway, Billy Graham would be on this big stage and he'd say, "Do not pray for these people at this time. They must make this decision independently of any outside influence. It must come from within. Don't pray for these people." That's really disturbingly consistent. I've really never heard a Christian be that consistent. Like, here's somebody who actually realizes that if God were to push somebody toward belief, that person would not be exercising their free will. Maybe Billy Graham will get a clue before he dies that God not only pushes people toward salvation, toward decisions, but he invades their world and gives them faith. Romans 12:3, God parts to each a measure of faith. Philippians 1:29, it has been graciously granted you to believe in God. Stay away from me, God! This was not a commercial, but I wrote this book called The Really Bad Thing About Free Will. You know what I like about this book? Everything. I really like this top line. A critical look at the salvation by willpower doctrine. Salvation is of Christ. It's nothing of myself. I didn't do anything to save myself. And yet it comes down to it that you're saved because you exercise your willpower. That's an ugly way to say free will, isn't it? Human willpower. Do you believe in salvation by willpower? That's what free will is. It's important to believe the right thing about this because it's a difference between believing in Jesus and believing in your belief in Jesus. If you're wondering about what I just said there, you need to get a book called The Really Bad Thing About Free Will. This is not a commercial. For $10.95, you can find out the truth about why Satan invented the doctrine of human free will. This is not a commercial. Man, thanks for being with me, folks. I know I kind of laid it on you thick and heavy, but that's what I do. I'm going to go take a nap if you don't mind. I am Martin Zender. Enjoy the rest of the weekend.